Hello and welcome to worship this Wednesday evening. We're so glad you're here. I'm coming to you from my home because of quarantining and pivoting around COVID restrictions. I'm wearing a football jersey because we're going to be talking about what it means to be people of the resurrection. As Jesus said, "Peace be with you." We're going to be doing this in an illustration of overcoming hardship through sports illustrations. One quick announcement. Next week, we will be winding down our Wednesday evening services. It will be our final one of this spring session. Confirmation will also have their final meeting of this year. We're glad that you've joined us and hope that you are blessed by your worship experience tonight. Tonight's reading is from the Gospel of Luke, the 24th chapter. While the disciples were talking about this, Jesus himself stood among them and said to them, "Peace be with you." They were startled and terrified and thought that they were seeing a ghost. He said to them, "Why are you frightened? And why do doubts arise in your hearts? Look at my hands and my feet. See that it is I myself. Touch me and see, for a ghost does not have flesh and bones as you see that I have." And when he had said this, he showed them his hands and his feet. While in their joy they were disbelieving and still wondering, he said to them, "Have you anything here to eat?" They gave him a piece of broiled fish, and he took it and ate it in their presence. The word of the Lord. This evening we're going to continue our sermon series about what's next. Last weekend I watched a movie called 7 Yards. It's the story about Chris Nocton, who was a Lutheran college football player. In 2010, he encountered a spinal injury during a game and was airlifted to the Mayo Clinic. While there, doctors told him and his family that there was a 97% chance that Chris would have no movement beneath his neck. However, Chris was very determined, and he set the goal of walking again. He did this within 5 years because he wanted to walk to receive his diploma from Lutheran College, and he walked for that at graduation. In the documentary, his parents were interviewed several times, and at one point his mom said, "I wish I had known then what I know now. I spent so many sleepless nights anxiously wondering, would Chris ever be able to live on his own? Would he be married? Would he be able to experience so many of the dreams that his dad and I have for him? If only I knew then what I know now, I could have used all that energy to encourage and strengthen Chris." You know, I think as humans, we're like that. We worry about what we cannot control, and we really want to know what the future holds. I remember as a kid playing softball or baseball in gym class or even on a team. And when I think back to softball, what I remember most is the absolute terror of being handed a bat and needing to walk up to home plate. I was so worried and felt so much pressure. What would happen? Would the kids make fun of me if I strike out? Or will I let my teammates down if I don't hit this ball hard enough to get to home plate? I had so many fears about not being able to make contact with that ball and not being able to get to home plate. I remember every time I was handed a bat and walked up to home plate, I wondered, if I just only knew. If I knew I would hit it, I could enjoy this part of the game. Well, you know, one of the greatest parts of Christianity is we do know. In the end, Jesus does not only hit a grand slam, Jesus hits it out of the park for the win. Last week in confirmation class, we spent a night talking about the book of Revelation. Now, there's a lot to Revelation that is really hard to boil down into just one evening of confirmation. But what I wanted the youth to remember most is that Jesus always wins. There are a lot of scary parts to Revelation, wars and conflicts, fires and battles, and that can be pretty overwhelming and scary. But we always need to remember, Jesus wins. Today in our reading from Luke, we get a little bit of a locker room pep talk from Jesus as he first appears to his disciples. In that pep talk, Jesus says, "Peace be with you." You know, it's been another really rough week where we all want some peace. We continue to struggle with what to think about injustice and racism in our country, the Chauvin trial and Brooklyn Center riots and unrest, once again having early curfews. It's another week where it kind of feels hard to be handed a bat and step up to home plate. But I want you to remember that no matter what happens in our world, Jesus always wins. That's the message of the resurrection. That's the message of the folded napkin over Jesus' face that said, "I will return." Jesus' resurrection and the life of a Christian always declares Jesus gets the W. So in times like this, when we face unrest, remember those first words that Jesus told his disciples in the midst of their fear. Peace be with you.